If you had to ask any 49er fan which player were they most upset about leaving in this exodus that the 49ers had, I think most fans would point towards Dre Greenlaw as being the player that they really wanted to return. And it really does sound like the San Francisco 49ers wanted him to return as well. But with all this information that is coming out, and it appears the truth is being revealed of what this process looked like, maybe the 49ers just waited too long. And let's take a look at what has came out over this weekend. And John Lynch actually spoke about this today at the NFL's owner meeting. So let's take a look in this article that was posted by Parker Gabriel. And as you can see from Cam Inman, it says, quote, General Manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan, in fact, had flown to Dre Greenlaw's home in Texas to check in with him. Multiple sources with knowledge of the situation told the Denver Post. San Francisco eventually had outbid the Broncos, who honed in on Dre Greenlaw. So, as you can see, the 49ers were clearly wanting to keep Dre Greenlaw. They wanted to keep him around. And this whole offseason was kind of it got started in a weird way because you had the wives of Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw both saying their goodbyes, saying they're leaving in free agency, all of that stuff. And it kind of caused a little bit of a stir. And so people were like trying to figure out like why is that coming out? Why is that being said? And obviously it's come out. It was something that I also talked about that I had heard from a source that Dre Greenlaw wasn't intending on returning to the San Francisco 49ers. And a big reason for that is he wanted to go run his own shop. He wanted to be LB1. He wanted the green dot. And that will just never happen when you're playing alongside the best linebacker in the league in Fred Warner. And clearly there was a market for him. And so he clearly got paid as a result. So that's not an issue either. So the situation comes out. The 49ers actually did want to do this, but maybe they just waited too long. And we'll talk about basically how that is probably the case based on what John Lynch had to say. So this is what John Lynch said, and this is via 49ers Web Zone. He says, we weren't done with Dre, but we had to go through the process. And other teams were aggressive in their pursuit of him, and we were kind of forced to be somewhat reactive. And then when the market was set, we wanted to go have a conversation with our guy, who we have a lot of respect and love for. We had a good discussion with him. He made a decision, and we respect that decision. We're grateful for Dre for all of the great work he did for us, and we wish him the best. And we'll see if that was a good decision or not. I know that guy is a tremendous football player. I wish him and his family the best. It got out there that we went and saw him, but he chose to go to Denver. So again, I think with what you're kind of seeing here is they kind of waited. And like they said, they had to be reactive. And by that time that they made their push, it was crystal clear that Dre was moving on, right? They had moved away from the home that I guess they had here in the Bay Area. They had moved to Texas. So they had already begun that process of moving on from the San Francisco 49ers. So I do think it becomes challenging when you come in at the final hour. And even though they outbid them, maybe it was just a little too late. And, I think the common trend with the San Francisco 49ers right now is they are, I guess, more patient when it comes to negotiations and contracts. We have seen them be proactive in the past with guys like Diamador Lenore, who's most recent. But, I think this is another indication that if the 49ers were really motivated to keep Dre Greenlaw, I'm assuming they had to prove that motivation early on in the process and not at the end of it. So it does feel like, just based on what I know of these negotiations and how these conversations go, sometimes players want to feel wanted. That's part of the process. And if they don't feel that right off the bat, then they're going to go to a place that does want them and does show that to them. And it does appear that Denver was that team that really, yeah, I mean, they gave him a 3-year deal um, that was pretty lucrative. And so he decided, and it also, I think, again, was able to accomplish the things that he wanted. He could be the LB1 there. And he also teams up with Talanoa Hufanga, DJ Jones, and, they have the reigning defensive player of the year on that defense, and they're a top 5 defense in the league. So he has an opportunity to be a big part of one of the best defenses heading into the season next year. So I can understand why Dre Greenlaw wanted to go. It's kind of an unfortunate situation based on the fact that clearly the 49ers didn't want him to go. They wanted him to stay. I think most 49er, like I said, I can't think of one 49er fan who was like, yeah, let him walk, let him go. Even if it meant giving him a decent sized contract, just because they know his impact to the team, what he means, the energy he brings, and what that tandem is with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw is just special is a special pairing, right? So it's an unfortunate situation. I know they tried, they did their best, and unfortunately, it did not come to fruition. It was not successful in the end. And, Dre Greenlaw finds himself in Denver, but at least you can put the notion of Dre Greenlaw not, or at least I guess the notion of the 49ers not wanting Dre Greenlaw back or not trying to get him back to rest. But again, it appears that very early on in this process that Dre Greenlaw had made his decisions. And even with the 49ers, top guys, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, going and visiting him at his home, outbidding the Denver Broncos, in the end, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So I don't know what that says about the 49ers. Obviously, those are situations that clearly you want to win. You want to win that deal. You want to keep good players. You want to keep culture difference makers and things like that on the roster. So I think it stinks, but it is also, I guess, a little bit of closure for the situation. We understand how it happened, how it came down, and whether the process was great or not. In the end, the 49ers tried whatever they could to keep him, and they were unsuccessful. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.